Hello. The Divine Code reading for October 31st, pages 291 and 292. We're beginning the section, the prohibition of eating meat that was separated from a living animal. The beginning here is the table of contents and includes restrictions on subtopic, includes restrictions on causing suffering to living creatures, mating different species of animals, and grafting different species of fruit trees. The table of contents, the introduction is by Joel M. Regenson, PhD. Chapter 1, Permissions and Prohibitions Commanded to Gentiles Regarding Meat. Species for which meat from a living animal is forbidden. Chapter 2, Which parts of a living animal are prohibited to be eaten? Chapter number 3, the prohibition of separating meat from an animal that is living or in the process of dying, and restrictions on consuming such meat after an animal's death. Chapter number 4, maimed or broken limbs. Chapter number 5, the precepts pertaining to a fetus and to eggs. Chapter number 6, deriving benefit from flesh separated from a living animal, cases with a doubt, and mixtures of forbidden meat. So these parts here all are details of the halakkas concerning the meat taken from a living animal. Then there are 3 other related topics, chapters, which kind of fall into the general category, the broader category. Chapter 7, restrictions on causing suffering to a living creature. 8, the prohibition of mating different species of animals. 9, the prohibition of grafting different species of fruit trees. So while this is not, the last 3 are not specifically regarding the prohibition of eating meat from a living animal, there are also things we should be careful about, and therefore they're included in this unit because it's logically part of this unit. Introduction by Joel M. Regenstein, PhD, Professor of Food Science, Head, Cornell Kosher and Halal Food Institute, Department of Food Science, Cornell University. For most of us, the story of Noah and the Ark ends with the rainbow as God's sign for this covenant with Noah. However, a covenant requires the input of 2 parties. So yes, there are also rules that humanity is required to obey as their contribution to the covenant. Although most of the precepts of Hebrew scriptures only apply to Jews, the 7 Noahide commandments are considered a covenant with all humanity. Therefore, it is important for everyone to understand these divine laws, and so that all may uphold their part in this covenant. So the typical understanding of the story of Noah is that God was going to create a flood. God instructed Noah to build an ark, to bring his family and to bring the animals into the ark to bring them through the flood. After the flood receded, then Noah and his family and the animals left the ark to repopulate the earth. And there was a rainbow, which was God's promise not to do this again. They would not bring a flood of that nature again. And usually that's as far as we think about it. And what's being said here is that there was the covenant. It wasn't just a promise. The promise was part of a covenant. And a covenant is it's a contract between two parties, and each of the two parties have their part to do within a contract. So God said he's not going to destroy the earth. And God also gave laws to Noah and to his descendants to follow. And one of the most clearly spelled out within is not to eat the meat from a still living animal that has the life within its blood. So when the animal's still alive, you don't eat the meat. One of these Noahide commandments is that which in Hebrew is referred to as Avraham Hakai, limb from a living animal, which is the prohibition against eating flesh that was severed from a living animal. On the surface, this seems like an easy concept to grasp, and it is. It is an important statement of the limitations imposed upon each individual in light of the broader spectral permission for humanity to have dominion over the animals. So God gave Adam dominion, and some people say that was a stewardship or care over the animals, but it's usually translated as dominion. And so what are the rules concerning this concept of dominion? And the rules were outlined in more detail for Noah. It is also a statement of God's concern for the welfare of animals. Humanity's responsibility for animal welfare is further developed in Hebrew scriptures to encompass the broader concept of avoiding the infliction of unnecessary pain or suffering upon living creatures, which is the concept of not doing any harm to animals unless there is a good reason to do otherwise. It is thus made clear that God's judgment to treat animals cruelly is wrong. Therefore, Hebrew scripture, by showing this caring for animals, also teaches by implication how much worse it is to treat people poorly. So it is clear that by including Avraham Hakai as one of the 7 Noahide commandments that are incumbent upon all humanity, Hebrew scripture is making a very powerful statement of God's vision for humanity. So we have the law. The God gives us law not to eat the limb of a living animal. Implied from that law is a prohibition against inflicting unnecessary pain on an animal. We treat an animal in a decent manner. Implied from that is that, well, if we need to treat animals in a decent manner, we should also treat humans in a decent manner. And the introduction will continue in tomorrow's reading. Thank you.